So today I'm going to be discussing a change actually, and a bit of a surprise this one in the world of LA real estate. It is from actually the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass. Now, if you guys aren't aware, which I presume a lot of people aren't, a measure came in. We've actually had a few measures that have come in, which effectively have made development in Los Angeles very, very difficult. And this has been within the last 12 months. So the big one actually was a measure called ULA. Within the city of Los Angeles, this basically meant that any property valued over $5 million had a 4.5% transfer tax, which meant that when you actually sold the property, there was a 4.5% tax that had to be cash, could not effectively be part of a mortgage, could not be lent. That had to be there. And over $10 million, it was 5.5%. Now, it is pretty crazy because I think when a lot of people heard about this, it kind of sounded amazing. A lot of people in LA are have been quite frustrated with these mansions that have been going up. And $5 million and $10 million sound like huge sums of money. And the people that buy those can afford to pay this kind of tax, which is going to benefit the city. However, when I went actually to the midterm elections, my first ever elections in LA, being a US citizen, and when I voted on the ballot, I was very aware of what this measure was. And actually in the bracketed side note, it was called a mansion tax. Now, I think a lot of people can be like, right, a mansion tax, that is something that is justified. I had two big issues with this. One of which is $5 million in LA real estate is not a mansion. Depends where you are in LA, and $5 million is a huge amount of money. But for most people, you can probably buy a 4,000 square foot house, which is a good size house, maybe going down to 2,500 square feet. And it is on a 7,000 square foot lot, an everyday house that would have been for an everyday person, 30, 40 years ago. That is $5 million here because the demand is so strong. And so the person who has done very well, they've bought their house, they've lived in it for a while, they've run out of space, they would really like to sell their house and upsize. That is no longer possible because of the fact that they're 20-30% down on a property is no longer there. That cash in their pocket, which is going to be used as the down payment to get a mortgage on, is now being reduced by 5%. So your person that is having an extra kid or two kids can no longer have more space. So that's the first thing, which actually I was thinking like, $5 million, it isn't like people who are buying that are paying all cash and have a load more money to spend. The other big thing that actually I think was very misleading is this was not about residential properties only. So this wasn't your person that was going to buy a house for themselves and could spend that much money, or a developer selling a house which they built for a luxury market. This was all real estate. So that's commercial, that's multi-unit residential, it's everything. And so what actually happened, and kind of speaking to people in my industry in the title business, is the amount of properties that were being traded over $5 million for the first couple of months after this measure came in was reduced to less than 50%, in some places as much as 20% of the actual transactions that were happening, which is not good. It's a situation where it's going to stop people from spending money and putting money into real estate in Los Angeles and in LA and the city of LA. So it was bad for investors. It was actually very bad, in my opinion, and we'll see if this plays out, but for tenants. The amount of people that were going to be able to upsize or buy a house is reduced. The amount of developers that were going to buy a multi-unit property, and some of these are 20, 30 units that they're going to buy and cost a lot more than $5 million, they're not going to buy those anymore. So you're probably going to have a situation where landlords who own those properties are not going to be able to sell them, and so they're not going to be wanting to spend a huge amount of money to redo those properties, which means the general quality of your tenants' properties where they're renting is going to decrease. The other thing is, if a developer buys it over $5 million, they're going to do major renovations so that they can increase the rent massively. So you're almost getting rid of that so they can cover that 5% on average. So you're getting rid of those kind of middle of the line, everyday person who wants to rent a nice apartment. Like rental in LA is very expensive anyway. But being able to not even do that anymore, I think is pretty crazy. So what an odd situation is created by this, where you think that you're going to be taxing the rich, but actually it isn't happening like that. The other thing, the thing that has now happened is apparently Mayor Karen Bass had a fireside chat, invitation only, with developers at an Urban Land Institute's conference. So she's now, a couple of days later, introduced a thing called Directive 7. Now this is as of today that I'm hearing about this, and it's actually something that I think is definitely a step in the right direction, or it seems like people in government, local government, have become aware of this situation here. Sorry, my son is banging on the door right now, so I don't know if you can hear that, but he's trying to get into the room where I'm making this recording. Anyway, guys, so Directive 7, effectively what it's going to be doing is slashing, or attempting to slash, the red tape. And in California, there is an unbelievable amount of red tape. You know, the amount of like hoops that you have to jump through to get things done in California is insane. So what it's going to try and do is cut that down. So what they've said is they're going to try and expedite things for projects and build momentum. So it was at a November 8th conference, which was yesterday, and she said that she's taking action to make living in Los Angeles more affordable by signing a directive to incentivize more housing to be built for people of all income levels, which is a positive thing, I think, for everyone. Because if a developer or someone who is thinking about doing a project is looking at building it, a lot of the cost is the cost to hold that property and that land. So if they are buying a piece of land and they are wanting to get plans approved to build that, sometimes they have to wait 6 months, a year of paying property tax, making sure they've got contractors in place before they can even break ground. And so if they are able to break ground a lot quicker, the cost of that actual development and the speed at which it's going to go up, i.e. offering more supply of housing, is going to be greater. And so hopefully that has an effect in driving down rental prices. So I think in this situation, it's kind of a win-win for everyone. I think we're going to see how that actually plays out and whether it's actually going to happen, because I think a lot of the time there are empty promises, especially in government, where things can seem great. This is my personal opinion, by the way. Things can seem great, and this is the right step. This is the step in the right direction. However, it doesn't play out like that, and what it seems to do is cause more issues. But effectively, what they're going to do is within the next 60 days or 2 months, they're going to have a goal to reduce the permit service timelines by 25 to 30% on qualified mixed income projects. So I think that is going to be good. It obviously leaves a lot of developers who are going to be building the nicer houses and houses over $5 million slightly out of that situation. But your multi-unit, residential developer should be doing hopefully a lot better, and it should save costs for them, meaning that they can get those projects up quicker. So I'll keep you guys updated on this situation because there are a lot of different opinions that are coming out. But I think this is interesting, and I think this is something that is definitely worth seeing how it progresses. So if you guys are interested, please do subscribe, please do turn on notifications, and write a comment below, because I would like to know your questions. As I said, I'm going to try and do one of these videos every single day on a different topic in real estate, whether that's in LA, California, nationally, globally, and I'd love to get some ideas about what you'd like to hear and what you'd like to discuss. Thank you guys so much for tuning into my channel, and I will see you again tomorrow. Goodbye.